All right, so we're picking up on page 157. We are going to finish reading Bronx Masquerade today. And we really have two new characters today as well, which I know seems weird to introduce new characters in the last 10 pages of the book, but they actually play a role. Um, as you see, we're starting today with Portia Johnson, and we've already heard about her just once or twice as kind of like the tough girl bully. Nobody wants to mess with her. She's the one that they said they'd heard rumors that she had like gotten in a knife fight at school and everything, but we knew her because one of the characters, I think it was Leslie, possibly, got in an argument with her in the locker room, but they found that they both could become friends because they both had lost their moms. And the other girl lost hers from cancer, and Portia lost hers from drugs. And she's kind of embarrassed about that. And her friend tells her, it doesn't matter. Like that wasn't your decision or your fault. Dead is dead. You're still lonely. It still hurts. So now we're going to actually read a little bit from Portia. I slam my lunch tray down on the table across from Leslie and Shankara. Deandra looks up, startled, from the next table, then turns back to her lasagna. The minute I turn 21, I'm changing my name. I say to no one in particular. I mean it. Why? Wait, says Shankara. We've had this conversation before. Why not change it now? I shake my head. Too complicated. Fine then. Count to 10 and try this. She slices off a square pizza from her plate and shoves it in my mouth. Shankara's a problem solver. She has no patience for talking a thing to death. Do something about it or shut up is her motto. I guess she's right. But one of these days, the name Portia will have to go. I'm tired of providing oversized boys with the raw material for adolescent jokes about my being a high maintenance mama or some sort of luxury item. Then there are those oily, leering, dirty old men on my block who drool or wink at me when I pass by on my way home, asking if they can take me for a test drive. Please. But for now, I'm stuck with Portia. I can live with it a while longer, though. It's amazing how easy it is to get a bad reputation. My whole life, I ran around letting people pick on me, laughing it off when they teased me, fast talking my way out of fights. They'd call me Four Eyes or Stuck Up or Miss Bug Eyed Bookworm, and I'd pretend their words were water and let them roll off my back. Now I'm nobody's duck, and their words stung a whole lot more than water, but I held my temper. It took a bully 9 straight months of riding me to cause my thermometer to boil. And once I lost it, did anyone blame it on the bully? No. They start calling me crazy, whispering it behind my back. It was as if that other Portia, the easygoing, even tempered one, never existed. Truth is, she always did. Always will. All right, so already we know about her. She has this reputation for being crazy and a fighter and tough, and nobody wants to mess with her. And she's saying, until ninth grade, until just last year, she was like the quiet, sweet girl, and people would pick on her, and she'd just ignore it and move on and always smile. And she was like your typical girl that is just kind to everyone. And she's like, and I just kept letting it go and kept letting it go. But at one point, I just couldn't anymore. This girl's been bullying me for 9 months. It hasn't let up, and I lost it. I couldn't take it anymore, and I just fought her. And she's like, but did anyone say, oh man, I can't believe she took it that long, or I can't believe she got pushed to the breaking point, or did anyone punish the bully? No. They all of a sudden forgot about everything the bully had done, and they just talked about how crazy she was and how tough she is. So she's like, her reputation changed overnight, but she just was tired of being bullied. All right. Deandra and Shankara know that, and now so does Leslie. If only the other kids knew the truth. I could never beat anybody the way I beat Charmaine last year. I'd be afraid to. What if I couldn't stop? What if there was no one around to pull me off? I could kill somebody. I know it's in me. I've got Mama's blood running in my veins, haven't I? She came close enough to killing me. More than once. When I was 12, she went on one of her tears and punched me from one side of the room to the other because I didn't wash the dishes. I don't think that was the real reason, though. She was probably just stressed out from working overtime, from dealing with hard to please new boss, or from juggling bills, and I caught the hard end of it. But who cares about the real reasons? The thing is, the same kind of ugly anger lives in me. I couldn't really see that until Charmaine brought it out. I have to make sure that monster never shows her face again, no matter what. And she's not saying Charmaine doesn't show her face. She's saying she became a monster when she fought. She has to make sure nobody sees that again. So I find ways to keep her in check. When anger rips a hole in me now, I punch a wall or run till the wind cuts my breath off. Once, I sat on a curb, running a piece of broken bottle across my fingertips. Lucky for me, the shard had a dull edge that left a jigsaw of scratches on me, and not a whole lot of blood. I know it was a stupid thing to do, but anything's better than allowing those fingers to hurt somebody else. I couldn't live with that. Not again. Not ever. No, these kids have nothing to fear from me. They just don't know it. So they all think she's tough and they're afraid of her, but she's like, I'm not going to fight any of them, but I'm not going to let them know that either. Leslie says I've got to learn to let people in. And I know she's right. Poetry just may be a way to do that. I mean, it worked for Devin, didn't it? And Tyrone. We all got to see another side of them. Even Janelle gets up there. Miss Shyness herself. I've never seen her turn so bold, although the boldness only seems to last as long as she's up front reading her poems. Still, that's something. Tyrone was the biggest surprise, though. Who would have guessed he wrote poetry? And he knows his poems by heart, no less. Every Friday, there he is, the first one to raise his hand when Mr. Ward asks who's got something they want to read. And he's always the first one up if Mr. Ward gives him the chance. No goofing around like he usually does either. He's all business. He takes center stage, clears his throat, and smoothly launches into his rhyme. The first time he got up there, I rolled my eyes like half the sisters in class, certain he was going to spout something lame or nasty about girls and sex or gangsters. I mean, that's all we ever heard him talk about, right? But there was nothing lame about this poem, and none of it was about sex. It was about what's going on in the world, and about trying to make sense of it. It was a poem by somebody who really thinks about things, and that somebody turned out to be Tyrone. He made me change my mind about him that day. Maybe I can change people's minds about me too. It's worth a shot. I better do it quick, though. There are only a few open mic Fridays left before school's out, and the last one will be at assembly. And I don't plan on getting up in front of the whole group of strangers my first time out. Friday's 2 days away, and I know exactly what poem I'm going to read. So we know that she has this horrible reputation, but it's really not who she is. So, like, while most people are trying to hide some deep, dark secret, she's just trying to hide that she's a nice girl that doesn't want to hurt people. She kind of likes the idea of them thinking she's tough now that they do. She didn't seem to like it at first, though. You know, she was like, this isn't fair. But we know she's tough because of her upbringing. She's clearly been through a lot. We know her mom died from a drug overdose. We know that her mom was violent to her and beat her and all that. So she hasn't had an easy life so far. And so she's put on this tough exterior so that she can be brave through it all. But other people don't know any of that about her. So her poem is called A Letter to My Mother. Dear Mom, you with the hypodermic needle in your arm, I never said goodbye or joined your funeral procession because I was too angry at the time. Leaving me seemed to be your choice. Why make it? Was it something that I did or said? Weeks after you were dead, those questions hammered me until I thought my heart would shatter. But then, as my friend told me, the why of your absence doesn't really matter. Besides, I'm older now and understand a little about pain and the crazy things it drives us to. So even though this may be overdue, remember, some things are better late than never. Mom, I finally forgive you. Love, Portia. P.S. Goodbye. So she wrote her poem as a letter to her mom, just explaining all this hatred she had for her mom after her mom died. Like, why would you let this happen? Why would you, choose drugs and death over me? Like, was I not good enough is kind of what she's saying. And she's like, why would you do this to me? And then she goes, but then I learned it doesn't really matter why you did the things you did. I understand that you were hurting. I'm older now. I understand what hurt is. I understand you were hurting and you made a poor decision based on your hurt, but I still love you. Like, I want to forgive you. I want to release this anger I have so I can move on. So, Tyrone, now I know school's almost over. We came to our English class yesterday and found our poems and drawings gone from the wall. Portia was about to freak, along with everybody else, till Mr. Ward surprised us with a class anthology. He'd gone to some quick copy place and made up books for each of us with copies of our work. It was pretty cool the way he hooked it up. I can't wait to show my moms. It was kind of sad seeing the walls all bare. But hey, today was our last open mic Friday, so it was time for our stuff to come down. Besides, we were only in there long enough to take attendance. Then we headed for the auditorium to have open mic there as part of assembly, just like Mr. Ward planned. The hall was crowded by the time I got there. I looked around for that reporter, but I don't think he made it. Yeah, well, I thought, his loss. I slipped into a seat in the front row just as the principal called everybody to attention. Sitting up front ain't my thing, but this assembly was different. Our whole class was there so we could reach the stage quicker to read our work. I was down with that. The principal made a couple of announcements, but don't ask me what about. Nobody was interested. We all sat up, though, when he called Teach to the stage. Mr. Ward explained what Open Mic Friday was about and how we got started. Wesley yelling, "Y'all got me to thank, remember that!" I was only half listening because I was waiting till Teach got to the good stuff, meaning when we finally got to read. Before we get started, he said, I thought it would be good if one or two of the students who have participated in Open Mic this year would say a few words about what it has meant to them. I checked down the row real quick. I'll pass, said Leslie. Amy and Sheila had "Don't look at me" stamped all over their faces. Raoul didn't look much better. Sterling rose out of his seat, but then sat back down, cracked me up. Everybody was suddenly shy. Not me. I stood and headed for the podium. I cleared my throat, rolled my shoulders a few times to get relaxed. Today, Tyrone, said Mr. Ward. Yeah, my brother, chimed in Portia. I'm getting there, I said, taking a second to adjust the microphone. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, fool, but you ain't saying nothing, said Shankara. Just give me a minute. Everybody laughed. Okay, I just wanted to say I'm really glad I got to do this poetry thing because I feel like even though the people in our class are all different colors and some of you speak a different language and everything, I feel like we connected. I feel like I know you now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're not as different as I thought. I looked out at Raoul, Janelle, Gloria, Devin, my homie Wesley, my whole crew, and felt something deep inside my chest, something that made me swallow hard. You guys are okay, I said. Even you, Steve, with your skinny, bleach blonde self. Steve grinned. Raynard patted him on the back, and everybody else tee-heed for a hot second. Then I went back to my seat. When I sat down, our whole crew was clapping. Tanisha and Judy Ann whistled. Nobody said it, but it was like I'd spoken for all of us. You know what I'm saying? And that don't happen every day. I'm glad I didn't choke up there, because now the whole school's talking about that assembly. Probably be talking about it all summer. We was so hot. We sizzled. Shankara read. Raoul did his Zorro thing. My man Wesley and me did a new cipher with a little sax from Raynard. And I even got Portia to read her piece again. I never did come up with any African drum music for Tanisha, but the sister did fine all by herself. Except for Wesley and me, we all pretty much did our old poems. The kids in our class were the only ones who'd already heard them. Besides, most of the kids want to wait till next year to break out the new stuff, because Mr. Ward already told us he plans to have open mic in all his classes then. Cool, huh? After assembly, Mr. Ward came up and clapped me on the back. I like what you had to say, Tyrone, and I loved your cipher, he told me. Any chance I'll see you next year? I don't know, Mr. Ward, I said. I've been thinking about hooking up with some guys who want to start a band. I might have to skip school and go on tour, you know what I'm saying? So I can't make no promises. I'm blowing smoke about this tour, and Teach knows it. But that's the game. I understand, but I did want to let you know we'll be hosting a poetry slam here next year, said Mr. Ward. And guess what? All of a sudden, the man's got my attention. So everything he's been asking for, the teacher has found a way to connect with him. So the last section here is the epilogue, just the final 2 pages. And an epilogue is the part that usually tells you what happened after the story or kind of summarizes things for you. So here's our epilogue. My mother says I'm lucky. She thinks I should be thrilled to go to an American school every day. I pretend I'm happy for her sake. She doesn't understand what it's like for me. Nobody does. My name is May Trin. I'm half black, half Vietnamese. You try being me for a week. See how well you fit into this world. Go back where you came from, kids say to me sometimes, and I think, go where exactly? We left the village my mother grew up in many years ago, right after my father died. He was American, so my mother was able to bring our family to the United States. I have as much right to be here as anyone, but no one hears me. No one cares about that. They can't see past my slanted eyes. Not even the black kids. Never mind that we're all people of color, that most of us live in single parent homes, that we catch the same amount of grief from the white world. It's ridiculous. It'll be all right, though. I'll finish high school, go to college, get my law degree, and be out of here. I just can't count on having too many friends along the way. Black people keep reminding me that I'm not one of them. Asians shun me because my blood is not pure. And whites are still making up their minds, although some want me to be their friend so I can help them with their math, which is a joke because I don't like math. So where does that leave me? I look around this class with black kids, Latinos, Jews, and Italians, and I wonder how I'm ever supposed to connect with any of them. But then we had an assembly yesterday with all these kids reading poetry. They seemed to get along with each other, almost like a family. They said it was the poems that brought them together. It can't be that simple, can it? Their teacher is supposed to be doing poetry again next year. Maybe I'll get his class. Who knows? I can think of worse things. So that is the end of our book, and as we leave off, we have new students being inspired to write poetry and be a part of his class so that they can form connections with their classmates. And I hope you enjoyed this story.